Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the live show for the Dragon Republic. So we will start with non-spoilers and then we will give you warning before we go into spoilers. So if you haven't finished it, don't worry. You can watch part of it and then we'll come back once you have. So yeah, does everyone want to go ahead and introduce themselves?
I'll start. I'm Megan from Mythical Megan. This is my first read of the entire series, so I'm excited to discuss the Dragon Republic.
My name is Jane. I'm from the Bookaholic, and it's also my first read, so it's not a reread or something. And yes, it's always me wrote.
Wait, this way.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, my name is Charlotte from the channel Clumsy Charlotte, and for me, this is a reread. I read this like 1.5 years ago, this entire series. So, entire series is a reread for me, and yeah, I'm excited to read these books again.
And if you're on my channel, you know I'm Lorena, and yeah, I'm excited to be hosting this live and for us to discuss the Dragon Republic.
Cool.
So yeah, cool.
Perhaps we can start with just like everyone sharing, I guess, quite general thoughts about the book, or like when have you read it, or how far have you gotten with it, and I guess what you thought of it and the rating, and then we'll discuss it more in depth as we go. So shall we start up here?
Yeah. So I really enjoyed it this time again. I liked it just as much as the Poppy War. And yeah, I think it was a little bit slower and less like fighting than I was expecting. But I do think it was a really good kind of setup of things that are to come, quite clearly going to happen in The Burning God. And I liked seeing those characters again, and again, Rin's development I thought was really, really good in this one. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of non-spoiler thoughts.
It's hard.
Yeah. It's
What
hard.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Rating,
yeah, I gave it a 5-star, so it's the same as Poppy
Amazing.
War for me. Yeah, especially those last like 100-ish pages. Just yeah. But we'll get into that later because that's like major spoilers.
definitely. Cool.
Me?
Yeah.
I also really enjoyed it this time. I think I actually liked it more than the first book. I tend to like books the most in the series that people like the least in the series. So I don't know if people like this one the least in the series, but I really, really enjoyed it. So I'm very excited to discuss spoilers because I have lots of thoughts. I finished it last night and I was just sitting there like in shock. So can't wait to get to the spoiler section. I gave it 5 stars. I think I said that, but just in case.
Cool.
Amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so it's my turn. I'm the only one in the previous life that didn't enjoy the first book. And unfortunately, I tried to read this one. Like, I really tried, okay? I read it for a few days, and every time that I tried to read it, I actually couldn't read more than 10 pages. Now, the thing is that it's not that the book is bad. I just really think that I'm not in the mental capacity right now to be able to read it and to enjoy it. And it's definitely felt to me like a chore. I didn't enjoy it, like just didn't enjoy anything. And I just feel like recently my reading has been in a strange place. So I really, really tried and I read something like 70 pages, but I just forced myself to do it, and it was becoming really hard for me at that point. So I just decided to DNF the second book. Now again, I don't think that the series is bad, and I read only the like less than 100 pages. So I will be here today mostly to listen to your thoughts because it's really interesting to me. And I actually read like the summary of all the books, so I know all the plot and what happens in the end, so I know everything. I just really want to hear your thoughts and how it was for you to read it. But yes, unfortunately, I just don't think it's the right time for me for this trilogy. And
which is completely fine. Also, like reading, especially like these thick adult epic
yeah,
fantasies, can be difficult if you're not in the right mindset for it. So I do understand. Although when Jane told me right before we started the live, I was like crushed.
yeah, yes, I really think that I can't really connect to the story if I force myself to read it. And maybe in the future, in a couple of years, I will be more in a adult fantasy mood and it will go better for me. But now it's definitely like just forcing myself and not enjoying anything.
Yeah, completely fine.
Thank you for understanding.
For my part, I have not finished the book yet, unfortunately. I've read about a bit more than a third of it, so I'm like 250 pages into it. And that's mainly on me for like my plan was to read it this week, but then I sort of started to slump, and yeah, I just have done other things or haven't prioritized reading or whatever. But since I have read this book before, I still know what happens. And for me, before I started reading this book, I really remember the end of it because like a lot of things happen in the end of the book, but I didn't quite remember the beginning. But now since I read like the first third or so of it, I do feel like I've kind of catched up on it. The first time I read this book, I gave it 5 stars. I do expect to give it 5 stars again once I've finished it because there's really nothing that has changed for me. I enjoy it equally. And actually, what I think is quite interesting is I looked back at my review from when I read it the first time, and I had written in my review that I found the first 200 to 300 pages to be quite slow compared to the rest of the book. Not that the book is slow in itself, but like I feel like the Poppy War series has a really fast pacing, like really fast. And in comparison to its regular pacing, the first 300 pages are slower, but they're not slow paced, if you understand what I mean. But now when I read it, I actually found that I got into it really quickly. And I think quicker than the first time I read it. And I'm not sure if it's because I read it before that it was so easy for me to get into it or something. So I was actually like pleasantly surprised by that I felt like I got into the book even quicker this time, which is quite fun. So yeah, I'm also excited to hear everyone's thoughts on it, and I do think I'll be able to join in on all of the discussions, even though I have not yet finished it. I have like a good chunk left. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if anyone has any other spoilery thoughts. If any, leave some comments.
Non-spoilery.
Non-spoilery, yeah. Just so we can kind of get those kind of aspects out the way before we start on the spoilers.
It's even hard to talk non-spoilery thoughts because if someone were to tune in and they haven't read the first book, you also have to be like wary of not spoiling the first book. And
I feel like everything will be here today spoilers for the first book, also in the non-spoiler section, just because we can't really talk about the second one before like talking about the first one. So there will be spoilers here for the Poppy War, so please be aware, but we will say before we will get to this book spoilers, Draken Republic.
I'm curious, especially for Lorena and Megan, but I guess also a bit Jane, how did you found that this one compared to the Poppy War? I think Megan, you said that you enjoyed this one more. Lorena, you said it was on the same page, kind of, or what were your thoughts? Because when I read it the first time round, for me, this is for some reason the book that actually stands out for the trilogy. And like for me, every book is amazing in the entire series, but there's just something about it, and I do think it's mainly the twist at the end, which has me going like, whoa, 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 whoa. But like when I think of the Poppy War, I for some like the entire series, I always think of this book for some reason. So it's something about it for me. But I'd love to hear what you think, and even you, Jane. Like you attempted to read the start of the book, so how perhaps does that compare to the Poppy War, or how come you pulled through with the Poppy War and not the Dragon Republic, or yeah, just all of your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll go first. So maybe I did like this one a little bit more. It's hard because like we are following a lot more. There's some of the same characters, obviously, but it's kind of it's different developments, and I feel like they're in a bit of a different situation. They're more mature this time as well. But no, I did really like it, and I could see that. I suppose out of the two of them, this one would stand out a little bit more at the moment. We'll need to see what I think when it comes to the final book, but it does stand out a little bit more, and I think it is more because of that last section. Definitely really just changed everything for me. But yeah, no, I did enjoy it, and it's you never know what's going to happen. I think in these books, it's the best way to say it. It's just you're never ever going to know what's going on. But yeah, no, the development and everything, and I'm going to be sad when I actually finish the series, because I am really enjoying it. But this does stand out a bit more for me. Yeah,
that's good. Solid grade.
Yeah. Wow, I lost my entire train of thought. That was awesome. I would agree though, like this one stands out more for me, which I already said from the beginning. In the first book, I mentioned, is it Kate?
Yeah.
Kitai.
Yeah.
Kitai.
Kitai. Wait, which one? We know who I'm talking about. He was one of my favorite characters, so we got a lot more of him in this book, which I enjoyed. And I loved seeing more of the like dynamics between people and Rin's like journey in overcoming that inner conflict, and just there were so many aspects of this one that was really cool, and there was still the fighting, but it wasn't like super heavy on the fighting, so there was still room for like world building, which is one of my favorite things, and like politics and that sort of thing. And I completely agree, you never know what to expect in these books. I'm usually pretty good at foreshadowing and like guessing what's gonna happen, and I feel like every guess I had in the last live show did not come true in the slightest.
I think that all of us guessed something that did happen about some specific character, but like accept it, yes. Yes. Yeah, for me, I feel like it's really hard for me to compare both of them because I didn't finish the Dragon Republic. And I feel like the main reason that I DNF'd it, like, and didn't continue it is not because the plot itself wasn't interesting. It's because I already finished reading the Poppy War, and then getting back to this world was really hard for me because it wasn't as interesting to me anymore. I just wasn't interested. I didn't really care about what is going on. But like objectively, if I'm talking about the less than 100 pages that I read, I do think that the plot was nice and like pretty fast paced. Like the whole book is fast paced, so I do think that the plot was good, like a good beginning for a book. So I'm not sure. Like I don't think that the start was less good than the Poppy War. I do think it was nice, and also like in the prologue, like the thing before the first chapter, I was really intrigued to read it. But then I just feel that the reason is the world itself and like the characters and all the plot in overall, and not specifically those pages that I read. I just couldn't really connect to what is going on.
Makes sense. I also don't know what else to bring up that won't really spoil like anything. Like there's a lot of things that happens within the first third or half of the book but
Yeah.
still, perhaps people won't really appreciate if we talk about that without the spoiler thing. So I don't know if we should just head into
I feel
spoilers.
like the thing with the specific character happened really in the beginning of the book. Like I didn't get to it, but from the summary that I feel that already the beginning is a lot of spoilers, so I'm not sure like what we can say.
Yeah, well, it's mainly that you need to have read the Poppy War, the entire Poppy War book, in order
Yeah.
to, because it sort of starts where the Poppy War ended, and then of course there's a big reveal about something that many might have guessed. But should we just get to spoilers?
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just
I think we're
it's
all itching to get to the spoiler section.
Yeah.
yeah, well, this one definitely is just it's too hard to keep speaking non-spoilery because I think a large section of this is just you have to speak about the spoilers.
Can we
Yeah.
put like in the comments or like a banner or something like spoilers now or something? Do it quickly. So like if you were only here to hear our general thoughts about the Dragon Republic and like our ratings and stuff, this is the time to leave because now we're gonna talk spoilers and you don't want to hear them because you want to experience the book to the fullest. I would suggest at least. So be aware, spoilers are coming now.
Yeah, okay. We have a banner. Everyone's warned before they come in. So
Nice.
yeah, I don't know what's the first spoiler thought anyone wants to speak about.
Okay, can we just start with like where the book starts out before we get to I think the main thing? But like the book starts with Rin taking the place as the general of the Psyche. And she's taken over from Alton and she's on this mission to kill the Empress and all of that. And in general, I just think that Rin is such a sad character in the beginning. She's addicted to opium. She keeps fighting with Alton in her mind. Like she has so much guilt and she really has no idea what she's doing. So she feels really lost. And I just think it's such an interesting arc for the character, and especially later on, like more towards the middle of the book when she starts working together with the Dragon Republic. Like she says multiple times that she how should I put this? She likes being a soldier and she likes being told what to do. She likes having that guidance. She likes having Vasira, or however you pronounce his name, Vasira, telling her that you should do this, you're gonna do this, you're gonna like. She gets very comfortable with it, and I don't know. I just think it's sad for her at the beginning. She's struggling a lot, but it's also nice to see her get over that addiction for a while and all of that. So does anyone else have any thoughts about her journey from beginning towards end?
Yeah.
I think. Oh, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
I was just gonna say, on top of just like her inner conflict, she also has that outer conflict of everyone just treating her like she's an animal and not a human being. And I was feeling like visceral anger about this situation. Like I didn't even know, like I wanted to crawl into the pages and beat people up, even though I would 100% lose. But I was so I don't think I've ever felt that much anger in a book before. And just like the more I read about it, the angrier I kept getting. But it was like good because it was drawing out that emotion in me. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it was even more sad just to see that play out on top of her already beating herself up. People outside of herself are beating her up too. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. You know, I do think she went through like a huge development in this book because where she starts and where she ends up is like very different places. So I did really enjoy the journey that we went on with her throughout this book and her character development. But yeah, no, you're right though. She doesn't really get treated like as like a human being, basically. But yeah, no, I did really enjoy the journey for her.
Yeah. But I guess then the main spoiler that we've been referring to is that Nesha is alive.
Mhm.
What did you all think of that?
I mean, I thought in the last book, I was like, there's no way he's dead, because you didn't see a body, and I think when you don't see a body, you never know. Like, I always think, oh, they can't be dead until, like, you know, we know that they're actually dead.
Mhm.
So when he was alive, I was like, I knew it. I knew it. And I was so happy because I really liked having him in the first book. And I liked the interactions between him and Rin in this one as well. Yeah, I was glad he came back, but how things ended up, I don't think we'll get to that later on the next bit. But yeah, I know. But yeah, but I was glad when he came back into it. But I think with the prologue, when that was in there, and I was like, oh, he must be coming back, because like, why else would you have that there?
I just knew he was coming back, but I don't know if I wish it had been done differently, but I feel like it was kind of a letdown how it was done. Like, he was already saved. I had this like grand like heist to go save him kind of plot in my mind. So he was already saved. It's fine. It was good. It was just not what I expected. So
Yeah, I feel none of us really surprised from him coming back to the plot. Like, it was pretty obvious. I also thought the same thing when I read the prologue. Like, it was so obvious for me that, oh, obviously he's going to come back somehow. And yes, I didn't got to this part of the book. I only read it like in the internet, so like online. So I didn't actually read it.
For me, I remember when I read it first. I don't actually remember my reaction to the reveal that Nesha was alive, because the first time around I was so focused on Alton, and I honestly believed when I finished the first book the first time that Alton was still alive. Like, similar thought of like, well, I didn't see a body, and like, what's his name, like Shagan, or like one of the twins was like, well, I didn't feel him die, so how could he die? So I was like, he's gotta be alive. He's gonna be alive. So I never really grieved Alton in the Poppy War because of that. Because he's alive. He's alive. And I remember I started reading the Dragon Republic, and like, wait, is he actually dead? So that was like, so I tricked myself. I remember.
It happens, yes, it happens a lot.
Like, similar thing, like, oh, but I never saw a body, so he can't be dead because it would be such a major thing. And like, well, he's pretty darn dead.
yeah.
But yeah, but no, I also really like having Nasha as a character, and I really do like his relationship with Rin throughout the series, and both how they sort of like, I don't know, like they fight, and they're not always friends, but somehow they are still always there for them, like, each other. And I do appreciate that. I'm not sure if many people agree, but I personally appreciate that this story is not necessarily romantic. Like, there isn't really any romance in these books. There are hints of it, like potential, like potentially there could be something with some characters, but I actually quite like that it's very much on a friendship sort of level. And I looked at my tabs from last time, and I have tabbed the page where they are sort of reunited later on in the book, and they hug, because I just found that to be such a sweet moment when I think Nesha asked like, "Can I?" with his arms stretched out, and she's like, "Yes." Like, small moments like that are enough for me in this series. I like that it's not romance involved with everything else that's going on. Or what are your thoughts about it?
You know, I agree with you. Like, I think there's so much going on, and like the situation they're in, like there really isn't time for romance either. So I feel like it's the right amount of how their characters are interacting with each other. Because yeah, there isn't time for that with everything going on, I think. But I do enjoy that it's not like a romance fantasy.
Mm.
Mhm. I feel like their relationship gives me emotional whiplash. I'm just like, yes, no, yes, no. And it's just like so back and forth. I'm sure they felt the same way. But because like Rin would be like, there's no coming back from this. We can never recover. And then the next scene they're together, they're like buddy again. I'm like, what the heck? So it just makes me think like, regardless of what happened in the end, I still think there's redemption for their relationship and the Burning God. At least I hope so. I've always been a romance fan. I've never really read like a heavy political war fantasy, but I'm enjoying it. I'm not finding that I'm like, oh, where's the romance? So I think there is definitely enough going on to satisfy the plots and the storyline. I also think it would be a little bit out of character for Rin to like have like a burning desire for a relationship, because that's just never been her goal. Every time like she talks about herself, she's like, I'm a soldier, I was built for war. If there's no war, like what am I good for? There's nothing else for me. And she basically, if there's no war, she'd rather just be dead.
Yeah, 100%. Like it would be really out of character. I agree with you. Definitely. I've tried to write down like some plot points to discuss. Perhaps it would help, but like feel free to jump in whenever you have anything you want to like go at. I'm just sort of doing it in the order that I read the book as well. If that's
I think it's a better way to kind of do it in order. I read this like mid-February, so it's also like remember like when certain things happened in the book as well.
I read almost 600 pages of it yesterday, so
Wow.
it's very fresh in my mind.
But another thing that's quite interesting in this one is obviously when Rin meets up with Nesha again, and they go to, what's that place called? Arlong or something like that?
Oh yeah, Readalong, where
yeah, something like that.
Arlong, like where he's from, right?
Yeah, they go to the Dragon Province.
Yeah.
And they start, I guess, like wanting, like this process of wanting to make or become a Dragon Republic, and like convince all of the other provinces to join them, and they will fight the Empress and stuff like that. And that's also, like, I guess the big plot of this book is how they first start, like how Rin is convinced that, oh, we're gonna do this Dragon Republic sort of thing.
Yeah.
You're gonna be so important in it. And then they sort of start that journey. And this is the thing I haven't read yet, but from what I remember, it does not go that well because of like greed and Vasira actually wanting to not make a republic. He just wants to be on top himself. Do we have any thoughts overall about this attempt to start this republic and how it went? And like, did you perhaps predict that it would not go so well? Or I guess, what are your thoughts in general?
Does Visera, does he actually like, I guess I gathered he still wanted a republic, but the Hesperians were more like, oh, we can control Visera, so this is how it's gonna be. And so he's just going along with it because of that like power balance. And if he can't like get what he wants without them, so I mean, maybe he did turn into wanting the emperorship.
Yeah, I just remember the Republic thing not really working out.
Yeah.
So perhaps that was more the way of how it went.
Yeah, I think having the introduction of the Hesperians definitely changed everything. I find them. It was quite annoying that they were there, but they just weren't doing anything.
Supervision.
Yeah, they're just like observing, and it's just they definitely have like their own agenda going on. But yeah, no, I like the fact that we got to see different provinces this time, because like we were just basically in the north the whole time last time, so it was it was nice to see like a different part of like the country, and I suppose, and how their military structure is different as well, with them using water rather than fighting on land. I think that was quite, it was really interesting how like tactics were completely changed, and Rin had to kind of learn again as well how she had to kind of fight.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned the Hesperians, Megan.
Mhm.
Like I find them to be so creepy and so interesting, and also so realistic, because they are based on they're Western people basically, and like the parts where, for example, when they are doing their experiments on Rin and all of that,
Mhm.
like those are real life events. Those things have happened with like Western people doing that on people with other ethnicities.
Yeah.
And that's so freaking scary. And I completely understand how uncomfortable it must have been for her, because sure, they're only taking measurements and stuff, but like it's
Yes.
insane. It's awful. It's disturbing.
Yeah. And like she was given choice, but was she really like
Yeah. No. Oh, that's very strong reactions to that.
I didn't agree. She was basically given the choice of, you either willingly do this and they're nicer to you, or they're just going to force you, which is not really, it's not really a choice at all.
It's not.
You just never knew like how far they were going to go either. Like she was there volunteered, but she just never knew, like there wasn't any boundaries, I suppose, as to how far their tests and experiments. And also with what happened in the Poppy War, like I think for her that added that extra layer, because she didn't know if it was going to be as bad
Yeah.
as what happened in the Poppy War. So I think,
Oh, very true. We're also introduced to, I believe in this book, this is once again the part I have not gotten to yet, but from what I remember, we're introduced to the people further up north, the hinterlands and their
Yeah.
people.
the Coyotides or something like that?
Yeah, no, there's a different. No, you're right. I can't remember the name. Is because
Coyotids or
they get the Nicaran people refer to them as the Hinterlanders, but they don't like being called that. They have a different name.
Exactly.
I can't remember what the name is.
trying to see if I can find it in here.
But again, that kind of reminds me of real history, that people from other countries refer to people as, like, in a certain way, and the people there are like, no, like, we're
Yeah.
so and so. So it's just, it's just very much based in real. You feel it's like it's real life, basically.
Yeah, because I guess you could draw parallels to this to like native people and indigenous people and similar as well. Like there's so many parallels to real life in these books. Like
Yeah.
definitely you can tell where inspiration for each
Yeah.
like group were drawn from. But can someone just like please summarize for me again what actually happened when they were up there? Because I remember parts of it, but
Like when they like from the river or the lake battle to
Yes,
so
I will need it too.
they go over the waterfall and then they come up. Kara, I think is how you pronounce her name, the sister twin. She revives Rin, and the Hesperians have a little group too, but the Hesperians won't go near the four psych. I think it's Kate, Rin, and then the twins. And then they get like taken over, and the Triads, I think is what it is.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. Yeah.
They have like mind talk, which I thought was super interesting. Like they can like send thoughts and feelings and words through minds. And the Sook sort, I don't remember. It's like the main.
Sorkin
Sierra.
Sorkin Sierra.
She comes forward and Shagan, Shagan, I don't know. He is like advocating for Rin's life because the Kaitriids want to get rid of all of the shamans. Like they think that the shamans should just not exist. And the Shortkin Sira helps Rin like kind of negate the effects of the seal in her mind by doing a steaming session.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like gets the venom out, but then that doesn't, like, it negates the effect of the seal from getting worse, but it was already so deep that she still can't call the phoenix. So she
Yeah.
bonds with Kate.
Yeah,
Which-
anchoring.
Yeah, yeah, he becomes her anchor, kind of.
Yeah.
So-
And then after like the bonding session, the cousin of the twins ends up killing the Sorkinsira and Kara.
Oh yeah.
And Shagan like breaks the bond so he can live on. And oh no, it wasn't the cousin that the cousin basically did, but he had the Hesperian, the like young Hesperian, do it so that he could say like it wasn't him. So the young Hesperian did it, and then they separate, and Rin and Kate go back on a raft for like a month to get back to where everyone's at, and that's when she like starts practicing and like learning about her powers and how to control it and stuff. So,
I remember. Yeah, thank you so much.
Good summary.
I remember like that scene when Rin and Kate are on the raft for ages. That one, like, I remember it so well. It stands out to me because it's like one of my favorite scenes, because it's like a training montage sort of thing, and how they're teaming up, and like that's when it really made it so solid for me how Rin and Kite are my dream team. Like the two of them together are unbeatable in my opinion. So, and I also really like, I love that they are anchored, but of course it hurts Kite as well that they are. But yeah, like, what did you think of the thing also that Rin, she kind of lost her powers for a while and was feeling very lost without them, I guess. And she had to go through such extreme things to get them back. Like, I also remember this image of like, is it Alton that burns his hand on her chest or something?
That's
like,
when they're in that sweat steam session, like it happens. Yeah.
That's intense.
You think, like, because they were saying like something about Alton, how when they tried it before, when it was just Rin and Shagan,
Yeah.
when it was just them, he was saying like, "Oh, I tried to capture his spirit."
Yeah.
Do you think his spirit like lived on through Rin when he did like the transfer thing at the lab in the Poppy War? And then she was like actually like finally killing him?
Potentially, yeah. That's a very solid theory.
Yeah.
That's like how I interpreted it.
Makes a lot of sense. Like, obviously there was a really great bond between Rin and Alton, and she was very haunted by him. Yeah, no, I like that theory. Because that would explain why Shagan couldn't really do anything, or couldn't really grab onto him or feel that he disappeared or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, once again, what sort of disturbed me the first time I read it, because that's why I thought he still lived.
I never thought about that, and I suppose it makes more sense if you think about it that way, and maybe that's why they struggled to try and break the seal as well, because it wasn't he was like there, maybe also blocking, or
because they said something like right after the steam session that made me be like, oh, it was like actually him, but I can't remember what it was. I wish I had tapped while I read, but I was just like speed reading.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
It's sometimes like this before lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was still quite early on, wasn't it? I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I have the place here. I'm looking at my old tabs. I think this must be the steam session or something, because she's having a discussion with Alton, and yeah, it must be the steaming session. But apparently I have a quote here that is Rin saying, You're right. I loved an idea of you. I was infatuated with you. I wanted to be you, but I didn't know you then, and I'll never really know what you were. I'm finished wondering now, Alton. I'm ready to kill you. Like for some reason, that was really important for me back then, and I still really love that. And I think we discussed this as well. That I feel like everyone had their idea of who Alton was and what he was, but no one really knew him. Like not Shagan, not
No.
Rin, not anyone. And that he still had this power to haunt them so much, like someone they kind of actually didn't know, and just they sort of just put their own ideas of what he was and like portrayed him in the way they wanted to. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that is something I had here.
Yeah, I think because he grew up as like the last Spearley, like I think he just always kept himself kind of distanced away from everyone.
Mm.
Because he never really got to be his own person. He was always just trained to become what he became.
Mm. Yeah. Cool. Okay, what's next? Following, they went on the rafts, they trained for a month, and then they met up with the Dragon Republic again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then was it, I can't remember if it's immediately, it's round about when they go back is when Rin finds out that there's all the like refugees from the southern provinces
Yeah.
outside the city. And I think they've
Like
been there for a while. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she
Ooh.
finds her like adopted brother and auntie, is it
Fang
Fang?
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. That's the thing that happened.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting how she started to see how people view her as well outside of like the war, like how the stories I suppose have been like going around. So yeah, that was interesting how people viewed her.
Mm-hmm.
And
Another
she's
thing
become
I also,
more symbol. Mm.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I also appreciate with this book, and I think it will be even more prominent in the third book actually. Like, it's not only about the war, but it's also about the effects of war. Like, we see that, okay, the war happened in the first book, but now we're seeing like all of the struggles with like resources and food and refugees and all of that. Which I think the series in general does a really good job of portraying that it's not only the actual fighting that is the issue, it's all the consequences following it. Like so.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, it took a while though for us to actually see how it impacted those provinces, obviously that were in the south.
Yeah.
I do think it's good that it got brought into it, so you're seeing like the full picture impact of the war.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Shall we get to? I guess what's next is sort of the end, right? Or is there anything before that to discuss?
Maybe just like the southern warlords, like before they were going into like that last kind of big battle in this one.
When her brother like got her and like dragged her to go meet them.
Yeah, and they want to basically just use her as like this kind of symbol
Mm-hmm.
to like break off and them to do their own kind of fight, because then I think it was a good kind of, in this book she really learned that people don't care about those people from the south. Like the northerners just care about themselves, and I think she started to realize that no, what they've never really cared about her. So I thought it was a good kind of development for Rin, and obviously clearly leading on to what's going to happen in Readalong as well.
Yeah. There's so many things that just like I feel like it's with the book itself, like you sort of start to feel safe, or you start to feel like, oh, the Republic is a great idea. Everyone's on the same page. Everyone wants peace, and then like next level, no, because we have this unfairness, and no, we have this injustice, and you sort of realize that it's all just so freaking broken in many ways.
Yeah, I kept wondering, like every time she would talk to someone, I'd be like, they're right. No wait, they're right. No wait, they're right.
Yeah.
And you never know who's right because you're following Rin and you're just as confused as she is. So
Yeah. Definitely. And like everyone has their own different strategies, and someone starts having a strategy like, "Oh, we should do this," and you're sitting there like, "Oh, that's a good idea." But then another character shows up and like, "No, we can't do that because of this." And like, "Damn
Oh
it,
yeah, that makes
that's
sense.
true. We can't do it." Like always.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many layers
Yeah.
and things going on here. Especially, we won't get there yet, but like how we end up ending is just like, yeah, I know. It's just, but then it's like what we thought we knew isn't what we knew, and like it's maybe this other thing, and I don't know anymore. Like I just don't know what's going on anymore. But
Yeah.
like in a good way. Like I'm really enjoying it. It's like keeping me on my toes.
Yeah, that's why I keep saying a lot that I find this series in general to be very smart, because it always thinks of things that I couldn't think of, and it's always like everything sounds so reasonable and so solid, and like I just love the strategy talk in general in all of these books because it's like so many different point of views that are all important and relevant, and you just realize how difficult it actually is with war, peace, all of that, politics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we just get to the ending?
That's like the big thing.
Yeah.
Should we start with like the drunk night into
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused because until now I was following, like I read everything. Like you described better what happened and like what the feelings of the characters are, which is really interesting to me to hear. But I'm really confused because I read like the summary of all the book and I don't remember that something big with a twist happened in the end. So maybe so like I'm just going to find out now what happened and I'm really curious.
I mean, for me, that was just,
Yeah, it shocked me. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
to an extent.
Because the
Yeah.
thing that happens is that I guess they're celebrating or something, and they
Okay.
drink, and I think Nesha and Rin walk off.
Yeah, no, there's another part to it because she was locked up, wasn't she?
Well, there's a part to it before that because
Yeah.
so her and the psych were planning to leave because she didn't feel she was
Mhm.
needed anymore.
Yeah.
And so they were planning to leave that night. And Suni and Bali
Yeah.
and Ramsa and Kate and her were planning to like escape that night with hopefully Moag, the like pirate queen.
Yeah. Moab. Yeah.
Mhm.
And like a few hours before the group was supposed to meet up, Rin Neja and Venka ask Kate and Rin to like celebrate, and they're like, well, we have to celebrate or else it's gonna look weird or they'll know we're leaving.
Yeah.
And so they're like getting drunk on a rooftop, and Venka and Kate leave, so Neja and Rin stay, and they're just chatting, and then Neja was like, I want to show you something, and he takes her on a boat, and he's talking about the like his dragon experience, and then he gets to the point where like the Hesperians are gonna like kill all the shamans if they don't stop using their power. And she's like, I just got my power back, I'm not gonna stop using it.
Yeah.
And then he stabs her in the back, literally stabs her in the back and knocks her out, and like she wakes up in jail.
Yeah. Because it kind of feels like they're gonna have a moment where they go, and then it's like I don't know if they kiss or if they're going in for the kiss or something like that. But then it's just like,
Yeah.
He was like feeling her injury.
So I read that he stabbed her, but it wasn't with the context. So now when I have all the context, it's making so much more sense. So it's like he betrayed her and fall into jail. So it's definitely something really big.
Yeah, no,
Wow,
it was.
okay.
Like, they were so close. Like you thought, like, oh, you know, maybe something was going to happen, but like they're really good friends, and all of a sudden, like, just bam, and I was just like, no.
And also, I remember because this happens with not that many pages left. It's like in the last maximum 50 pages or something. So I remember first time I read this, I was starting to feel so safe. Like it's done. They're gonna leave. They're gonna do their own thing. No one has really died. Everyone is doing well. Like I felt so secure. And then this betrayal happens, and like it's literally like the last not so many pages. So
Yes.
that's why I started to feel safe, because like, oh, nothing big can happen with only 30 pages to go. Like who would do
That's not right.
Never believed that, especially in a second book.
I was so mad.
Yeah, no, I was like, but then afterwards, like it sunk, once I finished it and it sunk in. When I read the first one, like I had made like a few predictions and notes, and I thought like, oh, I never at the beginning I didn't trust Nija at all,
Yeah.
and I thought like they're going to end up being on different sides for some reason, and I kind of completely forgot about it because they were such great friends in this book, and then he does that, and I was like, I should have trusted my initial instincts,
Yeah.
because like at the beginning in the Poppy War, like there was just something off about him, like he, I don't know, like he could betray someone, or like, yeah, and I should have stuck to those initial feelings. But you're right, you're just made to feel so safe,
Mm.
and then it
What
just
happened with
That's for
35
me.
pages
I was
left?
mad at myself for trusting the book.
We got 35 pages after that. That's it.
Yeah.
It happens, and then you're like, and yeah, she's stuck in jail, and then she looks out the window and literally watches Suni and Bali get murdered. Like
That hurt me so bad, because I really liked both of those characters, and as I said, I had felt sad. Like sure, like Kara died, but I didn't really care that much about her. So I was like, oh, we had like one minor death, but we basically made the entire book without any major deaths. So that's nice. That's safe. No.
And then Ramsa sacrificed himself to, and he's just like a little kid. He's not even a shaman. He just likes making bombs, and
yeah, and it was just so they could actually get out and escape as well. But like when she was trying to take, oh, I hate that, but when she was trying to take out her hand out of like the cuff, like that was just oh. But
Because
then also anchored to
and she
Katai.
needs to take her hand to get out of the handcuff. And Kitei, he's the one who helps her escape, right? Or
Yeah.
yeah.
But he can feel it as well, because they're anchored at this point. So like,
yeah, and they escape together on the boat. Only the two of them.
Yeah.
The part that makes me like angry is that Viseria and Sakai, the parents, were only keeping her to like reverse the effects and fix Neja. So they're just so hypocritical, because he wants to keep Neja as a shaman, but wants him to like learn control, is what I'm gathering, because he made it so Neja was a shaman. The Dragon Warlord did. Did you guys catch on to that?
Yeah, no, there was a little bit that because you know the prologue, like him and his little brother, and then I can't remember who it was. They were just like, "Do you really think it was an accident that these two kids, you know, were like left alone and happened to end up in this like forbidden cave they're also not to go?" Almost like he was planting an idea because he knew something would happen to one of them anyway. Which is just, it's awful. It's like his sons.
Yeah.
And it was like dragons do what they have to do, or something like that, is what he said in response. And I was like,
yeah.
I think that's also another thing we haven't really discussed, but I guess is in this book. Like it's hinted at quite a lot, but like Nesha and Shaman. Is that?
Yeah, it does come up because Rin catches on with the water, like because he doesn't know how to control it. And yeah, she's obviously trying to tell him like you need to learn, or like you could do something. Like people are like dying, and you could do something and actually help us win this. And he just
he's like, it hurts.
Yeah, he's scared. Mm-hmm. And also, but I think we discussed this when we talked about the first book, actually, that he healed very quickly multiple times, and like, there's something going on.
Yeah. And then the very end, where Rin decides that she's going to teach the Southerners to be shamans
Yeah.
and like raise a shaman army. I'm
That-
excited to see that, man.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's gonna be utter
So-
chaos, but it's gonna be great.
So that's great that you love the ending of the book, but what do you think will happen in the next one? Like, I can't know, but I'm interested to hear your speculations.
In my head, I see because they brought up like the triple anchor, so I feel like Tay and Rin are gonna triple anchor to Nasia somehow, and they're gonna be like the next trio. In my head, I don't know why.
The new trifecta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or somehow battle the old trifecta, because it's revealed that the dragon, or what was his name? The like dragon emperor, or the dragon
Yeah.
something like
Something.
that. The one of the trifecta that they believe to be dead is actually out there somewhere. Because if one the original trifecta are anchored, so if one dies, all three will die. So since the Viper is alive, the person that they believe to be dead is actually somewhere out there. So that makes me think, which one's actually gonna die, which one's actually gonna rule, and which one's actually gonna sleep forever.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, no, actually, that's a good point. And then I suppose the Empress, at the end, like you're just basically, you're almost showing like actually what she was doing
Mm-hmm.
wasn't actually bad, because like you were missing so many facts, and like you found out a bit about her backstory, and the reason why she didn't trust the Hesperians, and she knew that it was going to end like badly to bring them into this whole thing. So yeah, that's why you don't really trust. Like she's not actually as bad as we think she is, and that potentially the real enemies are the Hesperians. They're like the worst ones. So just yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's also like as we were talking about, like you never really know what's going on. Even when they first go to the Autumn Palace and Rin is supposed to kill the Empress, but she gets the seal instead. That's also like they sort of have a conversation, I think, where the Empress is trying to say like, you have no idea what's going on. I definitely did not set Altan up the way you think I did, or something like that. So like you're just constantly confused. You have no clue what's happening. I feel like you don't know who to trust, really. That's the entire series. Like who can you really trust? If even Nesha stabs her, like who can she trust? Only Kit Hay, basically, because they're anchored. They need to trust each other now. But she doesn't have anyone other than that. As we were talking about, everyone just want to use her or show her off or whatever. And like in the beginning, she's just so tired. She keeps saying that in the beginning as well, that, oh, once I kill the Empress, I just want to die, because what else am I supposed to do? Like, I'm just exhausted from all of this war. I don't like war, but that's the only thing I know how to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It definitely is. But I do think there's going to be like a huge battle in the Burning God.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be interesting to find out who's right in the end, because yeah, like you said, just no idea who to actually believe anymore at this point.
But isn't that a quote from the first book? The war doesn't determine who's right or something, or it determines like, what's the quote? We talked about this.
I remember it because that was like one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah, like it's not. What is it? I'm gonna find it. Hold on.
Oh, I know
that's
exactly what you're talking about too.
Exactly. If I just go on the book on Poppy War, I'm sure it will be one of the first things to pop up. Let's see, because other people quote it as well. Here we go. War doesn't determine who's right. War determines who remains. So that's the thing. Will we ever know who's right or who's wrong?
Yeah, I mean, it's true, yeah. And also, like, history's always written by the winner, so you never know
exactly
actually what's the full truth.
Yeah. It's a lot.
We got a comment.
Yeah. I'm curious, did all of you tab your books or keep notes? I don't really tab books. I think it was something I need to start doing, but I just make like kind of notes of certain things. But I know, like, I think you all tab them, I think, don't you? Or
I do typically on rereads, but I read this all in pretty much one day yesterday, so I did not have time to also tab. It's very fresh in my brain, which is why I'm able to recall it pretty easily.
Awesome. For me, I tabbed the first book a lot because it was a reread, so I wanted to give it a go to tab it and like underline and all of it. With this one, I haven't, mainly because I've just not been in the mood to tab it. Sometimes I like tabbing and writing a lot, and sometimes I just enjoy to just go through a story uninterrupted. But sometimes what I mainly do usually is just I tab like favorite moments or moments that stands out. So for example, the hug with Nesha, or when she finally gets rid of the ghost of Alton, or when Kite and Rin are like doing their training thing on the raft. Moments like that, just because this is a key moment, or I just really like this moment or something. So yeah, so no tabbing this time. I don't think I will do it for Burning God either. I think I will just read it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Jane, do you tab books?
No, I actually want to try annotate a book for the first time, but the problem is that you can't really annotate a book that you're reading for the first time because you don't know if you will like it or not. And I don't really reread books. Like I want to try and reread books this year, but it's really hard for me to pick a book that I already read. I reread some books, I think, when I was in high school, but it was pretty rare. And since I got back into reading like a few years ago, I didn't read any book. So I just never tab books. But like usually I love to read without interrupting myself. So that's why I usually also prefer not to tab. But I really get like the idea of it and why people love to do it. So I really want to give it a chance someday. But yes, I need to find the right book to read.
No, I'm the same. Like, if I pick up a book for the first time, I don't know I'm really gonna like it, and then you also suppose I don't know what to tab, if you know what I mean. Whereas if I reread The Poppy War, I definitely would want to tab it because then there'll be certain themes that I'd want to kind of follow through, foreshadowing, and yeah.
I do both. Typically I'll tab like book club books because I just want to have like my notes to refer back to. I never actually write in the book itself. I get these like bigger post-its and then like write on the post-it. That way,
that's smart.
If I didn't like it, I can still pull the tabs out. And it's not like I couldn't get rid of the book because it's got my notes in it. But if I do like it, then I have my notes still. So
it's actually quite a good idea, having bigger like post-its. Yeah,
I like doing that too, like writing on a larger post-it and just putting it into the book.
There is also like transparent post-its, so you might also do it like this. I saw some people annotating books and like use them, and then you can actually see the text of the book because it's transparent, and you can like write in the lines, like in an actual book, because people write like around the actual text. So the same way, just with a transparent post-it note.
True, that's not.
About the tabs. Points and examples.
Tabs, because it's the best way, I suppose, making notes and stuff to keep track of points to speak about.
I sometimes try when I read, like now, just to, especially before our lives, I'm trying to think of like, what are things I want to discuss or bring up. So I literally just go my notes in my phone and like write, like Dragon Republic experience, like just, I guess
that's a good way,
to have a look at it.
Yeah, that's indeed a very good quote.
It is a good quote, yeah.
It is.
It's like those kind of quotes that make you go like, wow, also if you didn't read the book, because I feel like in general it's a very good quote. So
exactly.
Yeah, and I think after the second book, you can definitely see that, yeah, it's not necessarily who's right. It's, yeah, who's going to actually end up staying. It's definitely becoming more apparent throughout.
Yeah.
It goes into that thing like you always hear, it's the victors that write the history books.
Exactly.
And like,
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm curious, and I know that Jane and I talked about it a tad bit earlier this week when we had another live, and that's, since this is a very war-centric book, and perhaps many of us read it in these times that we are now, do you feel that it perhaps affected you in any way? Was it, if you read it during this last week when things have been going down in the world? Obviously, things are always going down in the world, but
Yeah.
for some it might hit closer to home than usual. I don't know. But my question is basically, did you feel affected? Like more, did it affect you more that you were reading a book about war now when it's a very prominent time with war? Because I feel like sometimes people read to escape, and if what you're trying to escape is brought up in your book, it might be more difficult to actually read a book. I personally have not felt that way, uh, partly because I'm not that far into the book yet, but also partly because for me, it's, since I know I love these books, they are still somehow an escape and a safe place for me, even though the topics in the books are quite dark. So I haven't, fortunately. I was a bit worried about that, but perhaps if you have, like, just share your thoughts about that.
I read it before, like, everything happened, so I think my experience was completely different. But I suppose when I've been seeing the news, there's certain things that we read in the Dragon Republic that I suppose has kind of come back to me because it just kind of reminds you. These books are based on real life war as well, so it just kind of shows you that it always, the same things always happen over and over again, I suppose.
History repeats itself, like
Yeah.
both in fiction and real life, I guess, which is
Yeah.
awful, crazy that we don't learn, but it's the way it is. Yeah.
yeah, I have always been pretty good about separating things. So I didn't feel the impact of like reading this book versus the world. However, I do see the world, and I'm just, I can't even express my feelings because I feel like there's nothing I can do because I'm like one person in, I mean, I can donate, but other than that, and I can like go to protests, but there's nothing I can physically do. Unless I'm some chosen one that suddenly gains fire powers and I can go, attack some people. But but I've always been like, I actually find that I read more in the genre of things happening around me as opposed to like straying from it. Like during the pandemic when it was really bad, I was actually reading a lot of like dystopians and books with
That's
like
interesting.
disease, and I don't know if it's like I'm trying to understand it more or understand the intricacies of those types of things and like broaden my mind in that way, because I do think even though it's fantasy, I do think it replicates real life so well that you can learn things even from fantasy. And yeah.
I think that's so interesting to hear about because it's so different how people cope and what they are and are not able to do. I know, Jane, you tried to read it this week as well, right? Did you feel any effects?
Yes. Yes, I feel like just in general, in overall, I don't really love books about war. Like, I read so many fantasies in my life, and I did read so many books about war in my life. But I feel that The Poppy War is the first book that took the war and put it as the main thing around the book. Because I feel like in a lot of other books, it's just like the bigger plot of what is going on, but the actual plot of the book is what is going on between the characters. And I feel like it wasn't really about the war. But here, I really feel like it's about the war, and it might be one of the reasons that I don't really enjoy the series and that I couldn't connect to it like until today. I just like in general don't really love books about war because war is something that is really close to home for me because I live in a country that war is like a permanent state for us. Like we always have problems. Like Also, everything that is going on right now is very close to home because I'm Russian, so it's just all of my friends are all from Ukraine or know someone who is from the Ukraine or have a family in Ukraine. So everything is very close to home for me. But I don't feel like it affected me while I was reading the book. But I just feel like in general, I'm so used to the state of war. Like honestly, all of my friends and all of our families, we all really used to it, and we all also acting pretty like we just act as it's something that is usual, and it's not an example of how to act. But I feel like from my experience, all of us are pretty trying to deny it and just to act like everything is normal, although it isn't, because we're already used to everything being this sort of way. So I feel like I just didn't really think about it while I was reading it. But every time that I think like about the book and about the series overall, I remember that it's a lot about war and what's going on in the war. So I do think it's one of the reasons that I don't really enjoy this series. It's just like without even realizing it, I think about the war and stuff like this. I don't even realize that it affects me this way. Like after I read it and think about the book and everything, I realized that it might be one of the reasons that I didn't really enjoy it. I do feel like the whole strategizing about the war and just war all the time, it's pretty rough for me. Usually like reading a books like this, so it might be the reason. Like it's probably the reason, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. 100%.
Kevin asks a really interesting question.
Yeah.
Do you think the book will be good for teaching war?
I think it could be a good conversation starter, kind of like The Hate You Give was in schools. I think it would be interesting to have like students read it as a way to discuss real life topics, but not as like a history book. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the first book, perhaps that one has some more history, like actual, like Asian history at least. So perhaps, like obviously, one as you say, not as a history book, but perhaps a conversation starter for discussing Asian history and the wars in China and the Opium Wars and all of that. But yeah, as Kevin is writing here, for history repeating itself, it is quite a good example of it. And obviously, we're bringing it up now, and it's also just a good way of showing how complex it is, that it's not just you kill the emperor or empress and it's over. Like there's consequences, and I feel like that's something that is quite easily forgotten, both in school and real life conversations and all. How wars has consequences, and we'll see that even more in the third book, actually. So I think that's in that way, like at least opening up to a discussion.
Yes, I feel like the consequences in the Poppy War and like from what I read is so realistic. So I really get why you, Charlotte, love this aspect of the book so much, because it's right. Like in a lot of books about war, it's usually just what is going on in the moment, not what after. So the book, like I feel that the book gives good examples, and maybe it can like be used as a good example for school. But it will be hard, like to actually learn from it about war, but maybe just everything that is going around it.
You know, I think it would be like a good conversation starter, like everyone said, just to kind of discuss real life events and to see like different themes. Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay, believe me. Thank you.
Is there anything else we wish to bring up about the book, about the Dragon Republic?
Maybe speculations for the next book, if you have any.
That's what I wanted to get to as well. Like, what are your expectations for the next book, and are you excited? And perhaps Jane, will you even read it?
No, I will personally won't read it because I didn't finish the second book. I do think that I might join you for the live and like to read because it's so interesting for me to see how you are all affected from the series and what you are thinking about everything. But unfortunately, I won't read it. I really hope that like maybe someday in the future I will want to get back to those books because I'm a really mood reader. So maybe I will be in a really adult fantasy mood with a lot of wars. So hopefully the day for me to read the series will come.
Yeah.
Future.
I'm curious, did you read it physically or as an audiobook?
So I personally read it like mixed media. I read it physically and I listened to the audiobook at the same time. I started just physically and then I had like a hard time to get through a chapter. I
Yeah.
just started to read it also in audio and also physically.
Okay. You two up there.
I don't know, like expectations in the next one. I hopefully we find out about Rin's backstory because like I'm waiting for that. Like I want to find out how she's really like what happened. Like I want that question answered, and I don't know if we will get an answer, but like I hope we get that information. Because yeah, I'm just intrigued how she managed to get off Spearley, and I don't know if it's because somebody hit her, or there was something else at play. Maybe there was like some sort of like somebody knew that she was going to become important later on. So that's kind of have that kind of expectations, and then it's also going to be like this big like North versus South battle. But I don't know if Rin is going to be able to achieve everything she wants to achieve. Because I don't think she can just all of a sudden make everyone a shaman. Like I think it seems like too big a task to be able to get all these people to be able to do it. And like the time that they have, it's not like they have like 10 years to prepare for this war. It's probably it's already happening. But yeah, I think there is going to be a massive battle. And yeah, like the trifecta, like I think that the third one, I think we are going to hopefully find out where that person is, what happened. But yeah, I think the Empress is going to fall anyway. I don't know who's going to end up winning, but I don't think she's going to stay. And that's kind of my predictions, I suppose.
Interesting.
I said the trifecta thing earlier, and I do think that Rin will focus more on the females when she does like try to teach shamanism, because she said something about like there's a young girl out there dying to get out of her situation, willing to do anything to like save the country or people or whatever. So I think she'll focus on the females because I feel like the men are already like trained in like soldier or something like that. So I don't even know if it's going to be shamanism, but I do think she's going to involve the females more somehow, because I feel like the militia only had males other than like the few girls who made it to Singard. So I think we're going to see a lot more variety in the Southern militia, whether that be, I almost said species, gender, or like ability, like shaman or training or that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think you could be right with it because Venka kind of proved that even though she was injured, like she's found a different way to fight. So yeah, I think you're right that they could involve women more with different kind of aspects of the war and how to fight.
I hope they do at least. Yeah.
I'm gonna be quiet. I can't really say. I'm just excited to read it again. I'm excited to get crushed and devastated. Sorry.
Now you need to read almost 2 books until the next live.
Yeah, but like, I'm so excited now. Once we finish this live, to continue to read it. Like,
oh yeah, I'm gonna be picking this one up tonight. I need to know what happens next.
Talking about it hypes me up. So like, I'm gonna hopefully read it quite quickly because I'm so behind on my TBR in general. Like,
Same.
I love discussing it.
That happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you who do you speculate is going to die? Because you know there's going to be at least one painful death, and I feel like a lot of them have already happened. I hope it's not Kate, but I have a feeling it will be.
Yeah, 'cause, it's either going to be him or Neja. It's going to be one of those two, I think.
So I'm not
I
sure
know.
how
I'm just being
it will go, because like Rin and Ketai, they are like connected together, but I do have a speculation that I'm not going to say out loud, because one time Charlotte used the Burning God as an example for a prompt for a readathon, and like this example makes me think that something really bad is going to happen to Rin, like something extra super really, really bad. So I don't want to be right and for it to be a spoiler.
I think I know what you're talking about, and I think you're pretty wrong with what you mean.
Okay, that's good, because I was so nervous. Like she used the book as a disability representation in
Yeah, but I can
some
say what
readathon.
it's the hand.
Okay, great, because you used it as an example, and I was like, just before I even read the first book, I was just scared that Rin is going to lose her hands or something like this in the fourth book. I was already from the first book getting ready for it, but that's good. It's not what's going to happen. Yes, I'm glad to hear it for Rin.
I think you're wrong, but you just need to see to find out.
Yes,
I would
or
love
to
to
read the summary page like I did today.
I would love to see Neja go up against his dad.
Yeah. I think he is going to come back to Rin's side, because I feel like he's been used. I feel like he might be used as a pawn with the whole stabbing thing. Like, I know he betrayed her, but I feel like he's going to come back to her side. That's like another
Fingers crossed.
prediction. Fingers crossed. But yeah, I think it's either going to be Najal or Katai that's going to end up being killed. And either of them, it would just be like such a huge kind of, a huge loss.
Yeah, just remember, you can never be safe. Like, that's the one thing I learned from this Dragon Republic book. Never trust the story. Like, you can't be safe until you finish the entire book. That's when you can like relax.
Breathe.
I mean, like, I learned that with the Dragon Republic, because it literally was those last 30 pages that happened. So
Read the acknowledgements before you breathe.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I think that's mainly it for the discussions, right?
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I think we've picked up on all the points.
Yeah. We don't have a date yet for when the live show The Burning God will be, and not for the live streams either. We need to discuss that within us four. But follow the Twitter, Poppy War RA Twitter, to know when the next live show will be and the next discussion and all of that. It will happen, but we just need to set the date.
Yeah, and it will probably be in April, because we're already in March, and it will be at least 1 month to read it.
Yeah, it's another chunk. It's like 600 pages, right? Yeah. It's huge.
It is basically the same amount of pages, yeah, more or less. The same amount of pages.
I remember about 30 pages left.
I remember when I read The Dragon Republic, it's actually one of those books that when I read it, I was like, I don't want this to end. Like, I'm glad the books are so long, because I don't want to stop reading this book. So I like when you feel that way with a book, like, that's incredible. And I remember feeling that way with this book especially. Like, I don't want it to end. I'm just having the best of time, even though it's awful.
I wanted it to end because I was reading all of it yesterday.
Makes sense.
But when it did end, I was like, that's it? That's all I get? I wanted more. So
Exactly. Yeah. There's also actually a novella for this series. I have not read it. It should be free somewhere.
We can read it on sprints.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, post Burning God, actually, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but it's called something. Oh, I don't remember. But yeah, there is like a short novella to it.
I'll need to look that one up. But I'll read it after The Burning God in case it I don't know, depends where it falls in the series. So I think I'd rather get the series over and done and make sure there's no spoilers.
Exactly. No, I think that's the way to go. So that is fine. Cool. Yeah, I have nothing more to add.
Nope.
Should we leave it at that then?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Links to everyone's channels are below and the Twitter as well in the description. And yeah, just keep an eye on when we're going to do the live show for The Burning God.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.